What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Great show today. We're going to get a bunch of guests on. We're going to continue talking about the Nick Evers commitment. And has Luke Fickell met or exceeded our expectations so far in his tenure, very brief tenure as the Wisconsin Badgers head coach? We're going to talk about all of that and more on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. I appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody listening, everybody following, everybody helping build up this community. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions to apply. And let's get the band together. Let's bring Rajiv. Let's bring Scott. Let's bring Justin. This is a monumental moment, gentlemen. We are getting together, talking about a big commitment and kind of Luke Fickell overall. Rajiv, I'm going to start with you because I don't think anybody was more excited. I don't think. A lot of people were. I don't think anybody was more excited about the Nick Evers news than you were. Why don't you kick it off? Where are you at on this?
Minus me dancing off screen while you were doing the lead-in.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that.
Listen, guys, I'm all about the Nick Evers situation. When we had our show a couple days ago, we talked about the unique skill set this guy brings. It's a skill set that we've never really recruited at this school before. We had it in Russell Wilson for a year. We were like, oh, wow, look at what's happened here. This is a skill set we've never had, and I just feel like it's sending the message again that Luke Fickell is doing what he needs to do to take the next step for the program. What I love about this guy, I said it a little bit before, he's got a cannon for an arm. He's a true dual threat quarterback, and he uses his legs to actually open passing lanes. He can move the pocket, maneuver it well, and actually make big passing plays and be accurate outside of the pocket, which is it's a great skill set to have. And he's here, guys. He's a Badger. Mm-hmm. And listen, it's just one more reason that I have to say, how can you not be proud of what this program's doing right now?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just say this. This is one of the things when you hear people talk about Wisconsin getting involved in this new offensive style, this I feel like is kind of exactly what you need for when the weather does start to turn. Because what it does is it gives you a guy who can break the pocket, and when things get tight and your throws can't be quite as precise as they are earlier, you're putting stress on the defense to actually have to make a decision with a guy like this, and that you can't just be like, hey, we're going to man up and we can cover him and lock him down. And guess what? Now, if you're going to turn your back on a guy like this, he's going to pick up 25, 30 yards on you, because guess what? He's probably faster than all the linebackers that are on the field and all the defensive linemen. So unless you're going to, sit there and ghost him with a safety, you're probably not going to get away with pulling that type of stuff against the Badgers if he's what we think he is as a quarterback.
Yeah, he takes away a lot of that predictability that we've had for so long now, where, we just felt like we're playing in a phone booth and those linebackers could, go right through the gaps on us. They could fire off the edges because they knew that quarterback running was never really an option. And even if it was, it wasn't a dangerous option. It wasn't one that they were fearful of. As Justin just said, you can go for 25, 30 yards on one of those high school highlights. He got up to 20 miles an hour on like a 65-yard touchdown run. And it brings us, beyond just who he is, it brings us a lot more competition and depth to that position, where last year going in, we had one choice really, and if Mertz went down, we were in big trouble. This year, we've got Burkett going in with a year under his belt, and we've got another guy who comes in as a highly touted recruit with all the tools that you want. He's been working on his delivery with Kevin Murray, so he's got a great arm. He's got a quick release. It's exciting and a home run as far as, landing that type of a transfer in the portal.
He changes the game for us. He changes the game for this program, and I shouldn't say he changes it. He gives us an opportunity to change it like we've never had it before for multiple years. And he could be great. He could be not so great, but I like the steps that the program is taking.
Well, if he's a hit, this is the type of thing that can escalate Wisconsin's recruiting at that position significantly.
Well, define hit for me. I think this is a good segue into the next question.
Sure.
What are realistic expectations next year? Because I just want to say I've been kind of the speed break on this one a little bit. And just in terms of would you prefer Evers or Brendan Armstrong, I've kind of preferred the more experienced guy. And it's not because I don't think Evers, everything you guys are saying is 100% true. And I think actually, Justin, your point about giving the offense a cold weather outlet with a running quarterback is actually a really great point that a lot of people haven't talked about, right? It does give you the ability in cold weather situations, snow games. His legs are going to be huge in those moments.
Well, and he's extremely adept at RPO too.
I will point out though that, and I've said this before, there are college football is littered with high upside dual threat quarterbacks that don't pan out, and he doesn't have experience. What are your realistic expectations next year? Assuming he's the guy. Let's assume they don't bring anybody else in. Evers is the dude.
With tools around him, I think. Listen, they're going to throw more than they have been, and I do believe in the scheme. I think we'll see more passing yards than what we had this year for sure. I think that 2,600 to 2,800 yards is probably reasonable, and I think if he is in this offense, I think if you are a quarterback who is average, 20 touchdown passes is probably going to be the ballpark of where you're roughly going to be, because it's a big shock play offense that if you hit the plays that are there, you're probably going to be able to get to those numbers. This is not going to be like the Wisconsin scheme where, we're inside the 10, we don't throw the football anymore. Everything needs to be a run. Like there's going to be a couple of touchdowns that are just going to be, 5-yard touchdown passes out of this, where we just didn't do that in the past with Wisconsin. So I think 20 to 25 touchdown passes is doable with a guy who is not an all-world player in this offense.
Yeah, I think 20 to 25 is a solid bar. I think if everything goes well, he could get, 28 to 32. Now, I think that is everything going, 80 to 90% of capability next year. But, throwing for 3,100 yards and 29 touchdowns and 9 or 10 picks and running for 450 yards, that's what they envision. And maybe not next year, but eventually. And I think if everything goes well next year, he understands the system. He's coming in early, to try and get up to speed with Longo. I'm guessing they're going in confident next year that he can throw at least 25 touchdowns and run for 450.
I think they envision him being Desmond Ridder is realistically likely what they're looking at him and saying, this guy has a similar skill set, and there's nothing that even a similar build, to be quite honest. Ridder came in very, very kind of lithe and thin for a tall guy. So it's something that they probably look at and they're like, there's some projection there where there's similarities between those two guys.
And you know what I would say is I don't really feel like those are good expectations. I think 20 to 25 touchdowns are good numbers, but I don't feel like I don't even need to see that next year for it to be a hit. I feel like I want to see progress in the program, in the way that the offense is called, in the way that the games are managed. And I want to see a quarterback that's, going to be able to take that next step. But if it's 15 to 20 and he has 7 picks, 10 picks, I want to see progress. I want to see us move in the direction. So if it's his second year before he hits and he has a 25 touchdown, 30 touchdown season, I'm okay with that. I want to see development more than anything else right now.
Yeah, I really want the big thing for me is I want to see when game gets to crunch time, I want to see a quarterback that actually can make some things happen for Wisconsin for once, because it's been way too long.
That's a great way to put it. Sorry to interrupt, Scott. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely about like ability to do things in situations that we have never been able to do. We've always been stuck in certain situations, and he can get us unstuck in a lot of different ways, and that really hits the nail on the head.
Yeah, I think if he throws 17 touchdowns and has 8 interceptions, though, I think we'll be disappointed because that's going to feel a very
in this scheme. Yeah.
Team. I think a bad year would be 17 to 20 touchdowns and 8 to 12 interceptions. I think we'd be pretty concerned if that's the case, unless it's the end of the season where he's really coming on and he struggled early in the season. And
or we go run heavy early
yeah.
in the year.
But if we see things, if we see things that are are gonna pan out over time, that's my main focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good way to look at it too, because the stats without context, it's kind of hard. There's going to be a lot of games next year, Wisconsin does not have a great out of conference slate. There's going to be games that get a little out of hand, right? So you may not see a quarterback.
The backups are going to get some reps.
Yeah, you may not see a quarterback put up some of the numbers, assuming that this team is kind of what we hope it will be. But I think Justin and Rajiv, you guys both said it. Scott, I think you mentioned getting a quarterback just to be able to make plays in big moments against a tough team on the road, to be able to get a 13-yard scramble on 3rd and 10. Like that those are back-breaking plays for a defense. And to your point, think of the quarterbacks we've recruited recently. None of those dudes can, maybe Burkhead and LaCrue, but before that, none of those dudes were really those type of guys. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that part of it's pretty refreshing. All right, we got to take a quick break. We're going to come up. We're going to keep talking Evers. We're also going to talk a little Luke Fickell. How satisfied are we with the first portion of the Luke Fickell regime? It's early sample size, but a lot has happened. Is this kind of what we expected? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn remains just your number one source, your number one professional network for all your hiring needs. Everything you need to do from a hiring standpoint, from a recruitment standpoint, you can do on LinkedIn. And every new potential hire these days can feel like just a giant wager on your small business. You can't afford to bring in the wrong people. It's hard to get rid of them. It's hard to find them. And that's where LinkedIn comes in. It's something I've used as a professional. I've used it in the IT side. Our company uses it as simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skill sets and experience. So you can prioritize who you'd like to hire, who you'd like to interview. It's win-win on both sides. And it's why small businesses continue to rate LinkedIn Jobs number one, delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Appreciate everybody tuning in to Locked On Badgers, making this one of your first listens every day. We talk about the Badgers every single day. The channel's been growing, which is really a tribute to the people on the show, the people in the community. So I appreciate all y'all so much. Let's get these guys back on, speaking of which. And I want to kick it over. Let's start with Scott on this one. Luke Fickell's been on the job for not that long. Like I should actually know the exact days in my head, but how would you characterize this first portion of Luke Fickell? Is this what you expected? Is this better than you expected?
I think expectations were high, which that's why we got him. You know, that's why they went out to change direction. And it's hard for me to see people not being excited and feeling, really good about the direction of the program right now. I mean, how could you not? We immediately started filling in some gaps on the recruiting trail for this year. We'll see what happens after, this weekend. I'm thinking we'll probably get a couple more commits. And, the transfer portal for Wisconsin, to get a 4-star in the transfer portal, depending on, if you're looking at 247 or Rivals, ESPN, top 100 to 200 recruit a year ago, that's big time for Wisconsin. And, getting Longo, who's, got an amazing reputation as an offensive mastermind, which is, again, why I was, stats don't tell the whole story, but in this offense, it's hard to see a quarterback throwing for 17 touchdowns. Like they just routinely throw for 20 to 35 touchdowns every year. But you've got to be pumped. You've got to be excited. And that's why they brought him in. So I think he's fulfilling expectations so far. And, McIntosh, he put his career on the line and he wanted to see this type of stuff happen there. He wanted to see him go all in. So that's what we're doing. And I think as a Badger fan, you couldn't be more excited than where we're at right now.
I would say that he has met my expectations completely because, like Scott said, we had really high expectations. Specifically for me, he's met my expectations from a recruiting and a standpoint, including the transfer portal. I think that, you immediately saw guys coming in for visits. You immediately saw people committing. And I just feel like he's implementing his system very quickly. He clearly puts a huge emphasis on that piece of college athletics, which frankly is the most important piece. So I just feel like He clearly knows NIL. He speaks their language. These kids, like the game has changed. The game is modernized, and with NIL, he has the ability to take that to be that much better than the previous regime. But to be fair, I feel like he's not really exceeding it because I had expectations and I feel like he's met them.
I'm gonna, for once, I guess, be the one that's even more optimistic on this. He's been an A+.
Wow,
Let's
He's been
go.
A+. Absolute A+ in my book, and I'll say exactly the areas where it is. Number one, from a staffing situation, he has absolutely crushed what I was expecting at spots. The Longo hire to me was like, wow. I was not expecting him to get somebody with that level of, notoriety pulled in. Like you rated a top 15 offensive coordinator from another Power 5, well thought of school that has good recruiting ties. Offensive line coach that's pretty well thought of. You have a guy who is recruiting his butt off, quite frankly. Like, we're hearing constantly how he's on the road or has people on the road. The story about what was the cornerback from Florida's last name? The one he locked up. The Clona. Yes.
The Clona. Yeah.
Him how aggressive they were in going after that guy and locking him down is something we have not seen from a staff in my time following the team. Not only that, but his visibility as a coach, him going and, being on all these shows, him showing up at volleyball games and, just putting his face out there are the type of marketing things and things like that you want to see from your coaching staff. You want to see them showing the team off. It gives the people running the social media for the team things to work with, to put out there. Mm-hmm. You have not only that, but it just seems like he's got the bigger picture and understands the things that we need to do in order to kind of get everything put into place. Now, I mean, realistically, I was not expecting a 4-star quarterback to come walking out of the portal this year. So, like, there's so many things that he's done so far that are above what I expected. Like, I think we expected Gino Guidugli to be the offensive coordinator, a lot of us. And here he's got Phil Longo now. I think the only place we can really say that where he didn't exceed was, finding a way to get Leonard in there. And I don't think that was a reasonable expectation. Yeah, if that would have happened, I would have been, quite frankly, kind of shocked, because he had guys that he had really well thought of before that was already in his defensive staff, and he's a defensive coach. So it's really hard to put somebody like that in there when you already have guys that want opportunity.
Yeah. Can I just say the marketing piece of this, Justin, you've called this out like months ago, the marketing piece of it. And I feel like you've really hit the nail on the head with that. And he is doing a really good job of that. And it's way more important than myself or many people even think about. So he's done a good job.
I would agree with Justin for the most part on this. I think he's exceeded my expectations as well. And just like Rajiv said, and Scott mentioned, like, those expectations were already pretty high. Mm-hmm. Like, Fickell came in with a resume, right? But I absolutely love seeing him at a volleyball game with Chris McIntosh, right? Mm-hmm. I absolutely. When did you see? And again, this is never about dancing on Paul Chris Grave. I say that all the time. They're
just different coaches.
And one of the first things he did, what did he do, guys? He brought in his strength and conditioning coach, who's been called his secret weapon, and his 2 recruiting studs. Mm-hmm. Right, like, for a program,
his inner circle.
For a program that's been yelling about player development, where is it? Recruiting, why don't we care? Well, what does Fickell come? He's like, listen, I care about these things.
This is important. Yeah,
it's really
so refreshing. It's just so refreshing.
I feel like for the last 4 years, we've been wandering around the land of the lost, and we were getting so vanilla, and now it feels like there's a clear vision, and this is a sexy program right now. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a hot place to be. And Evers was even, he even spoke to this about how they're trying to get some other guys, to come in, which at this point, like, I'm excited to see what happens in the next 3 days. Do we get Snowden? Do we get Judy? Like, I feel like we're going to get a few more guys that are high profile still, because
Renfro's a guy that could be coming in too.
Renfro would be great.
Renfro, just for people listening, that's a transfer center potentially. Snowden
from Cincinnati.
The 6'3" cornerback recruit that's been talked about. Judy is a defensive line prospect for
Elijah Judy.
Yep. So there's a lot of pieces here pretty highly recruited that potentially are at least being talked about, we should say. There's smoke there.
D-line is such a need for us.
Oh, it's huge need. I agree. And that's coming up. We're going to talk about that a little bit in the next segment. Rajiv, I might kick that to you on that one. I do want to finish this segment up. I want to go roundtable with all of you guys really quick because we do got to take a break. But do we need let's say Brendan Armstrong, the quarterback we talked about, isn't realistic because he has other suitors and we just landed a big-time guy. Are you comfortable next year going into it with our current quarterback crop?
No. I want somebody that has experience there, that if Evers goes down or something, that has played significantly enough that we feel comfortable with them being out there. I'm not saying that Burkett wouldn't do a good job. It's quite possible that he would, but not having any experience there is a little, concerning.
Yeah, I feel like I want some cover for Burkett because I would like to think that Burkett's going to be the number 2 guy next year. I hope that we see great things out of him in the bowl game, but I think, we need someone that has a little bit of experience who can say that he's played a season somewhere else and can just provide a little cover there. I think we all can. I mean, I'm assuming you guys think LaCruz going to redshirt. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's got to put on some good weight. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I feel like we're going to need, we need that depth there. Like I said, I hope Burkett's number 2, but yeah, I'm not comfortable with it right now.
Yeah, it's the classic, like you just drafted a rookie quarterback, but you want to have like Ryan Fitzpatrick there just in case. Right?
Totally.
That's Amish rifleman. I'll gladly take that.
Yep,
that's perfect.
For the beard alone.
Okay. Maybe we can, I agree. Maybe there's some South Dakota State quarterback transfer who has a graduate, year or somebody like that, that I can't, name off the top. I think they're going to bring in someone like that too. I would be shocked if they don't get Armstrong, if they just go in with these 3 guys next year. Was it Marshall Howe?
Marshall Howe is the walk-on.
Yeah. I'm guessing you don't want to chance it that much. You have high expectations, but you want to be able to have a guy who can execute the offense if these young guys are just looking like they can't do it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I agree. And keep in mind too, what is Evers that physicality and that athleticism and that capability we love? What does that lead to a lot of times as well? It leads to quarterbacks being kicked out, and then what's your depth chart look like? Yeah. So it's a little sketchy. Getting a guy with experience, I agree with everybody. All right, coming up, we're gonna play a little hot potato. We have questions and answers with these 3 gentlemen. It's gonna be all them, the 3 amigos. We got your comments, your thoughts on both sides of this Evers thing, plus Fickell news. We're going to play a little hot potato, kick it around, talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. What do they think about what you think? That's coming up next. But first, a word from our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number 1 source for all your sports betting needs and information. This is the number 1 spot if you want to put futures bets, live in-game betting. I've talked about where I'm at. It's a lot of fun if you have a belief or if you're just betting with your heart, which quite frankly, I do more often than not, as you know, with the Suns and the 49ers. So I bet with my heart, and it's a lot of fun to put a few bucks on it and see where it goes. So I'm going to be able to buy a new toaster if the 49ers win a Super Bowl. That's a big deal for me. So plus all live sports news, podcasts, live casino games, blackjack, roulette, it's all available on BetOnline. They come you covered with every sport: soccer, esports, golf, baseball, basketball, football. It's all there. Grab your mobile device, head to the website today. BetOnline, where the game starts, where the trends and actions begin. Let's bring all of the friends of the show back on. Again, I do want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned into the show, who's been following the show. Keep in mind, December 23rd, we're doing our big Christmas spectacular live giveaway. Tons of swag, like autographed stuff from Jonathan Taylor, Dare, Chris Orr, Zach Bond, and more. So that's all coming up on the 23rd. It's just a live giveaway show. You're going to have to be in the show to participate. There's going to be trivia questions to win the prizes. So
get your Ryan Herring's autographed beer cozy.
Yes. Listen, not that anybody
I want that one.
Not that anybody would ever want that, but I will give that away. We got some cool stuff. You're going to want to be there for it. All right, gentlemen, you guys ready? We're going to do some hot potato. I'm going to kick questions around to all of y'all. Justin, I'm going to start with you on this one because we've already started once with Rajiv, once with Scott. This is an interesting take, and this is a fair take, I think, that I see go around. This is from Juniper Elwood. Don't get too excited. Look at OU's quarterback play when Gabriel got injured this year. They suffered through Bevel's horrendous play, never considered putting Evers in. And I had various ways this has been worded, like, hey, why did he transfer? He didn't play at Oklahoma. There's too much hype on this guy. I'm going to kick kind of that general thought to you, Justin.
Well, he was a true freshman, which to me, right out the gate, more often than not, no coaching staff wants to start a true freshman. Like, unless you're absolutely electric out the gate, they're not going to do that. It's just they don't want to risk potentially messing with your mental makeup going forward. And if there's one thing to be said for a young quarterback, that you want them to be tough and maybe take a few lumps, but if he experiences really bad play during that year, and Oklahoma stunk this year, so part of it's like, why are we going to damage you on a lost season? So the way I kind of look at it is, why? I mean, you could put them out there. If anything, if you're Oklahoma, you're probably complaining about, well, our depth chart stinks. Why does it stink? We can basically bring in a 4-star every single year. I think that there was an opportunity. Like, the biggest issue is why he transferred. There's a 5-star coming in there, and he was brought in by this current coaching staff, but I don't think that he was truly it wasn't their full recruiting cycle. So when you look at it, it's like, was this guy a guy that they were super high on regardless, or was this a guy that it was just like, hey, he's available, we got a shot at him, let's grab this guy, and then we'll worry about that position going forward. So it's kind of like Wisconsin, like it's the Graham Mertz situation. Of course he transferred out. Why? Because he has no clue what to expect, and he has no idea if he's going to be given a fair opportunity going forward.
It is an interesting point. A lot of people point to Graham Mertz and say Badger fans were this excited about Graham Mertz as well. And Rajiv, I actually want to kick that to you because that's another thought that we get a lot. I didn't actually put that comment in here, but people say everyone's so excited about Evers. We're the same people so excited about Graham Mertz.
Yeah. And listen, I was excited about Mertz. I'm not going to say I wasn't. I was pumped about him, but he was a better version of the types of quarterbacks we have been getting our entire fandoms, right? He was a better version coming out of high school of Stave and Tolzien and these guys. So, but Evers is a different guy. This is not the same kind of excitement, because this is the kind of excitement I felt when Russell Wilson transferred here. And I feel like that is where I am with this and how it's different from Mertz. Yes, I get it. But look, this guy's got 4 years of eligibility and he's got talent that we've never seen here. So I will continue to be really, really excited about him, even though I understand Mertz was a dud.
Can I just really quickly say it's okay to be excited? You can be excited. You can also do that and be realistic about it. Listen, there's still risk with every single player you bring in, but it's also very okay as a fan to be super excited about an incredibly athletic, highly thought of quarterback coming into a system. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Sports is 90% hope. I mean,
well, it's like the comment that you have up right now. Ryan, do you want to read that too?
Let me, because some people are listening, they don't watch. So this comment is great news. We landed Oklahoma third-string quarterback in the portal. Burkett has much more experience, is a proven leader and winner. Why sell him short? After Mertz, you'd think UW fans would forget about stars.
And my response to this is simply this. This is no slight to Burkett, but there's a difference in physical raw tools between the two players. Burkett's a nice player, and we have no clue what they'll do once they actually get on a football field. But from a raw tools standpoint, Evers has more like raw physical talent. He's a bigger quarterback. He's faster, probably slightly better arm. And you have Burkett, who, like, to be quite honest, he's not more experienced. They're basically the same player at this point. So looking at it from that standpoint, and you can't even lean on the system, because the Wisconsin system that Burkett just spent a year learning, that's gone. So whatever he learned this year, that's out the window. If anything, Oklahoma is probably running something closer to what we're going to be running next year than what Wisconsin was.
That's a great point. Scott, I'm going to kick this one to you. This one right here, let's see, there's also a lot of people hyped, by the way. A lot of people hyped about this. Yeah. Mountain Grizzly says, this is awesome. The bus has an engine, the wheels soon will be running down the road. Now let's go get the Virginia kid and hit the ground running. Even if you don't get the Virginia kid, like, the hype is real and the excitement's real.
Right. And I wanted to quickly allude to the Mertz, failures. These are apples to oranges, type comparisons too. When he
Two
came
completely
in,
different players. Yeah.
yeah, and two completely different situations. Like, again, not dancing on Paul's grave. I mean, kind of, but, he did not develop any quarterbacks for the last 5 years, and not well, at least not well. That, for the last 5 years that he was here, it was not a quarterback friendly system. When you look at Longo's system, the epitome of a quarterback friendly system, and a guy with completely different skill set than Mertz in Evers, it's hard to even compare. Now, there's never a sure thing. There's been a lot of failures with 4-star dual threat quarterbacks. There's also been a lot of successes. So, and then in regards to the last comment, we should all be super excited right now, cautiously optimistic. I mean, I don't even know why. I guess you can be cautiously optimistic and realistic. I think realistic going into this season is winning 8 games, to be quite honest with you. And I don't think, and if we win 6 games again next year, then we can worry about that when we get there and be like, it was a failure of a season or whatever. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to, go in thinking we're going to win 8 to 10 games. I trust Fickell. There's no reason not to trust Fickell. We're going to go in prepared with athletes that are flying around the field. We don't even have to really speculate about this. We saw this for years in Cincinnati. On both sides of the ball, they fly around the field, they make plays, and they develop. Those players develop there, right? And so we're going to get some more big-time recruits this year. Maybe we have a young secondary next year. Well, we had an old, crappy secondary this year. So I'm excited to see a young, athletic secondary that develops throughout the season. I'm excited to see a quarterback, whoever that is. Hey, guess what? If Burkett goes out and wins that starting job, that's a good thing, because that means Burkett has developed big time for the last year. We have competition now. That's the big thing about this. And I think he's going to keep leveling up, and it's going to keep increasing. And I think we're going to experience a lot of success because of it. Yep.
Let me read this comment really quick. This is from Cowboys Chad 5X. And everyone left a comment, by the way. I really appreciate it. As always, I can't always fit the whole comment in. So sometimes I have to truncate it a little bit. So if anybody sees it, I'm not cutting anything out, I promise. He says, as a native Texan, close follower of high school football, I can tell you Nick can play. As a Badger fan, I couldn't be more stoked. Let's go. So there's hype there, and it's deserved. I think it's good to be excited. I think you should be excited. I'm here for that.
And when you watch this guy's high school stuff, I mean, he really does have talent. He does things that other guys just don't do, and he's got a skill set that is really, really exciting.
I'm going to finish here. Well, do you guys have any last quick thoughts on Evers or Fickell in general? Because I have a couple of quick comments I want to finish with.
You had a comment that popped up that you had on there for a second regarding how a high-level organization operates. And I think the biggest takeaway that I've had is you have Fickell bringing in a guy who is like an organizational leader that he brought in from Cincinnati with him. And that, to me, like, that's his budgeting guy, but it also is one of those things where you look at it and it's like, it seems like for the first time since I can remember, we're trying to maximize every aspect of the program to the best of our abilities. And that's something that we haven't had in the past. Like we cared about what was on the football field, and that was about it. And that didn't even always extend to recruiting, where it was like, well, why aren't we attacking these guys? Or why are we getting coaches who don't love recruiting but are really good coaches? It's like, at some point you have to, like, we're Wisconsin, we should be able to get somebody that can do both. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to say, hey, let's get a guy in here who is, hungry and a good coach, but also wants to bring in the best possible raw materials for him to build up his, position group.
To add to that, if you ask college football fans across the country what they want from their program, they're all going to tell you, well, we want to be a part of the CFP. We want to be the next Clemson, who came up 10 years ago and has had a fantastic run of championships and great CFP appearances. And I feel like this is basically what Wisconsin is saying they're trying to do right now, and they're showing it. And that's my big takeaway right now from seeing everything that we've seen up to now. We are ready to be that team that goes up to the next level. Is it guaranteed? Of course not. But this is the best shot that we're putting together that we're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you have to have imagination. You have to have a vision, right? Clemson was very similar to us until they weren't. Georgia, people can only see what's in front of them right now. 7 years ago, Georgia was like the third or fourth best team in the SEC on an annual basis.
Yeah.
They could never win the big game and take it, And so, again, we can't assume that those things are going to happen. But you have a guy who's coming in with a vision, with a proven track record, and he's executing it right now. I mean, Fickell, I'm guessing, is very confident that he's going to be extremely successful there.
Yep.
I think that's very well said. I'm going to finish up with 2 comments. The first one I'm just going to read, and the second one I'm just going to get very quick reactions from you all. The first one is from Brent Parks. As a lifelong Buckeye fan, I hate that Wisconsin got the guy I'd love to see coach at The Ohio State University. I can't wait to see what Luke turns Wisconsin into, and I'm scared of it at the same time. I love it. Here's one from a Minnesota fan, y'all. We'll see you at the end of the next season. He essentially says, I hope your whole rebuild isn't a multi-year endeavor. See you next year for that axe.
Yeah.
Kurt Cole.
What is Minnesota going to do when they lose half their roster now of 35-year-olds that are done finally with college football eligibility?
Mo didn't get a 17th year. He's not
no kidding. Like half their starters are going to be gone next year, and it's like, oh, that's one of the underlying thing here that's not necessarily being talked about yet. The West is basically getting gutted. A lot of the top talent is gone after this
we've
year.
Talked about it.
Yeah. But there's like a mass exodus happening. Like Purdue's going to take a downfall. Aiden O'Connell's gone. You're going to have Minnesota lose half their offense, and I think probably a couple of defensive guys too that they rely on heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And Iowa,
I would lose quite a bit defensively. Yeah. Illinois lost their defensive coordinator
to Purdue. What I would say is, all right, like Minnesota fans, you've had a couple years of fun here. Like, bring it. I mean, seriously, I'm just ready for that to no longer be a competitive rivalry at all again. It's going to be another. We're about to take a step that you're not even close to. So, have fun, Minnesota. We're about to trounce you.
I like hearing that Phil Longo is not afraid to run up the score. So I'm okay. Totally. I'm on board for that. If we put drop a 40 spot on Minnesota, I'm not going to have a problem with that at all.
Same.
Bring it. We're going to take the axe back, and you're not getting it back for a while.
I love it. That's what we're here for. That type of regime optimism. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we got to most of the comments I put in here, but again, thank you for everyone that's been tuning in, for supporting the show. We're almost up to 3,000 subscribers now, which is incredible. Remember, December 23rd giveaway show. Come to it. We're going to give away a bunch of stuff just as a way to say thank you. It's 100% free. You just got to be here and answer some trivia. So, on Wisconsin, gentlemen, as always, I appreciate y'all, and let's keep it going.